Okay, all rise, please. Hey, please.
I'm ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Director Ranger? Here. Director Bowman?
Here.
Director Casteri? Here. Director Steinhardt?
Here.
Director Peters?
Here. Okay. Does anybody have any changes to make to the agenda?
I'd like to ask, and I don't see them here. What, are they here? Well, maybe they'll be here by the time. We have an item for the proposed dental insurance. There are representatives coming up. And so I was wondering if the board would consider hearing that item before we get into some of the more lengthy discussion items and have item 9A follow 4B.
I think it should be reworded also on 9A. It says authorize the general manager to execute renewal of a 2-year contract with United Concordia. We never had them.
That's correct.
Good catch. Okay, so where do you want to put that one? That's 4.
Just follow 4B.
Right. Anybody else?
Well, we've got, who are we expecting on that item, John?
Sherry Scarda and who else?
You know,
2 other folks?
we have a lot of members of the public in the
It's
audience.
the board's choice. I didn't expect them tonight, and I just anticipated having them.
You know, I would leave it in its current order. We'll change this order. That would be, and I would make a motion to that effect.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
So good. Next. Public comments. Now, this is for items that do not appear on the agenda. For items that are on the agenda, what will happen is staff gets the first say, then the public, and we have a 5-minute rule. And then the board will discuss it amongst themselves, and the board can ask questions. All right. So, John, you give me a call out the person.
I do have one speaker for public comments, and
Good.
that's Mr. Neil Tickler.
Go ahead. By the way, state your name and also your address, please.
My name is Neil Tipton. My address is 2805 Shell Creek Place, Westlake Village. First, to Mr. Bowman, 10 years ago you stepped up to fill a vacant seat.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
I said, is that better? Is that better?
Yes.
Mr. Bowman, first, you 10 years ago you stepped up to fill a vacated seat. You dove in, you learned everything you could, you worked hard to do what you thought was best for the district. And I personally and publicly would like to thank you for your dedication and your service. And I hope that you know me well enough to know that I truly appreciate anyone, even when I disagree with them, that serves the community. So thank you. A couple of weeks ago, we had one board member attack another during a meeting, threatening to force them out of office. This represents the key issue in the district, arrogance, in my mind. You see, just like it's wrong to attack the public for questioning you guys, it's also wrong for a fellow board member to attack another. But more importantly, you don't decide who gets to be on the board. We, the public, do. Last December, I stood at this podium and I told you that you're not working well with one another, you're not listening, you're not working well with others outside the community, you're not listening to the community, and you're acting with arrogance. And we warned that if you guys didn't change the way you went about doing business, we would change the board. And Mr. Bowman just learned this lesson the hard way. While some of you would like to believe that this is a quote-unquote Three Springs issue that we keep bringing forward, if you look at yourself in the areas representing 91% of District 4, the voters very clearly said that they were not happy and they wanted change. Primarily, they're not happy with the 10-year rate increases, which we'll talk about later. but 91% of the areas, almost 60% of the voters, and we would like you guys to keep the message. In a couple of years, a couple of you are up for re-election, and you have a choice. You can change the way you do business, or if not, we get to change the occupant of our board seat that needs to be changed, that we feel needs to be changed. Since I'm confident that I wasn't listened to before in December, I'll repeat a couple of high-level items that I think need to be addressed. First, I think you need to take a serious look at culture change. A while ago, I proposed to you a simple change. Mr. Bowman told me that he didn't understand what I was saying and how it would be different from the district, but I'm more than happy to show you how you can completely change the culture of your organization without losing control. This one change will make Las Virgenes an enviable water district, one that will blaze a trail for districts across the state. So your choice is either to be leaders or not. And one of your first real actions to show this is to only choose a new general manager that embraces this. And you certainly should not hire any candidate that cannot work with the public or on a regular basis is doing outreach to the public. If you are interested, reach out to me and I'll explain that concept again, because there's not enough time here in public comment. But as for a couple of action items tonight, first, be transparent and collaborative. You as a board should avoid having any board member criticize another board member, and you should avoid going after the public by name and trying to discredit them on a regular basis, either as a matter of course at a board meeting or in other public forums. If for some reason that somebody from the public has been named, then they should have an equal chance to defend the comments back in the same way that, in just as public a way as they were criticized by the board. And this has happened not just to me, but to many people in the community. Second, every meeting should be video recorded and put on the web. Every single meeting. No excuses. It's wrong. It's dead wrong for you not to be in front of the public. It gives you the impression of you having something to hide. And don't give me some lame excuse about it costs too much or whatever. If somebody tells you that, just go find new people. That's just a ridiculous answer. It's the 21st century. Even the school board figures out how to do video. So there's more, but again, these two things I would like you to try to think about moving forward on. One is instruct the staff to come up with a plan by the next meeting to video the meetings and put them on the web. Two, look at culture change before you hire the general manager, as it should be part of the process. And three, avoid practices of trying to discredit the community. Listen to them instead. Once you've done those things, you'll actually need to communicate and not just go through the motions. But it would make for a good start. I hope you hear us. In my mind, the board has a chance tonight to start showing us a new way of working. Right now, not next meeting, not next year, but tonight, and I encourage you to take advantage of that.
Anyone have any questions for him? Okay, thank you.
That's all I have for public comments.
Okay. Let's go on to 4A.
Public comments on things that are not on the agenda.
Thank you, service order. Joe Bowman. You have, Joe Bowman began his 10 years of service in the district in November of 2002. He was appointed as director of Bill of Agency Division 4. From 2007 to 9, he served as president of the board of directors. Joel holds several certificates of achievement.
Can you use the microphone?
Speak up, please.
Use the microphone. Sorry.
Joe holds several certificates of achievement for elected officials and special district board members. During the past 10 years, Joe has served the district as both the ACWA Federal Affairs Committee and the House of Federal Affairs Committee representative, and has helped shape legislative policy with both organizations. He has also made several trips to Washington, D.C. to advocate for the water projects at the federal level. Joe is also present at the regional board hearings for the tapping permits both in 2005 and 2010, helping the district obtain reasonable terms for its NPDES. And I will add that he has been a real force for financial conservatism on this board. He has been responsible in Maine for our decreasing our reserves. So, Joe, it has been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to what's left. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it. Do you have any comments, Joe?
Yes, I did. Thanks very much. It has been a real privilege and pleasure to be on the board. I don't know what happens in other districts, but those of you out there should know that in my 10 years, I've worked with people who work hard, who think to themselves. I cannot remember even one instance that another director has approached me to say, I really want you to vote this way on an issue. There have been many conversations that, to the effect that this is how I see things, this is the facts I think are important. But I've never been lobbied. And you people should understand that is a very important characteristic of a board. Each of the members of this board do what they think is right all the time. And the issue of transparency, which Mr. Chickton brought up, and I find to be offensive, there has never, in the 10 years I've been on this board, any backroom deals, anything hidden from the public, anything distorted, anything other than laying out the facts as they are and addressing them. So, Mr. Poland, I congratulate you. I wish the campaign had gone a little bit differently. I wish we had had a chance to stand in front of the public and discuss our relative positions. I'm sorry you dodged that. But I wish you well, sir. I wish you well. And I think you're going to find that this seat is a lot more work than you might think it is. Your first year or two is going to be a lot of work, getting to understand everything. And I see we have in our packet tonight a couple of booklets that I will leave here. One's on financial management, the other is local agency decision making. And if you don't have them, sir, I would ask that the staff make them available to you. What you should also understand and carry in your heart is that you represent all the ratepayers of this district, not just Division 4, not just a segment of people in Division 4. You represent everybody, and you are obligated by law, by state statute, to do certain things. And in that regard, you have a fiduciary duty, sir, a fiduciary duty to perform these acts. That means you must make your very best efforts in carrying out your duties. It means you cannot put your personal opinions or belief ahead of what is right for the district. It is a heavy burden. It is the same burden an attorney owes to his client. So you know, I'm sure, that directors do many things. They set rates. You've campaigned that you think they're too high. I understand that. I know you understand that a major responsibility is financial oversight, and I will tell you that this district has a spotless record in the 10 years I've been here in financial oversight. Spotless. You also should understand that one of your specific duties by state law is to assure that the district has proper infrastructure. And I'm sure you'll reflect heavily on that. And another one of the duties that is not often mentioned is a responsibility to see that the district is properly staffed. Now, I'm a little saddened now on behalf of our staff that we now have two directors who have opined that our district has a bloated bureaucracy that our employees don't work hard enough and that they're overpaid. I'm talking from the perspective of the staff. Somehow lost in this campaign was the results of the last survey done of our ratepayers. One of the arguments made is that we do not communicate well with our ratepayers, yet the score given the district in that regard, the response to the question of whether we keep them informed on water issues, was in the 92nd percentile. It's really easy to sit back and criticize. It's a little more difficult to dig into things and understand the facts. Lost, I think, a little bit in the last campaign was the fact that our so-called bloated bureaucracy is one where we've cut 8 positions in the last 3 years. And the fact that our general manager has opined to us twice in the last year that he cannot, in his opinion, cut any more jobs in the operational aspect of this district unless it is to the detriment of the district. That leaves 2 areas for cut. One is community relations, which we've been criticized for, doing an inadequate job. And certainly, were I still on the board, I would not vote for any cuts in community relations department. And the other is customer service. And again, if you look at our survey, you will see that the district scored in the 88th to 92 percentile on questions about whether our ratepayers are satisfied with customer service. So why would you cut that department? So our employees now come to work every day understanding that there's 2 directors who think they're overpaid and want to fire someone. And this is what I say to you, staff. I'm sure you have people in your lives that have somehow challenged you, offended you, criticized you, you think unfairly. And my message to you is, I hope that in your hearts, you do not give those people, those kind of people, the power to cause you any angst. So I hope you come to work every day looking forward to the day. I hope you go through the day motivated to do the best job you can, as you always have. We have an excellent staff.
John, I think Wayne has something to say.
Yeah, I hesitate because I know you're making heartfelt comments, and sooner or later you're going to make them as a part of the farewell speech, but I'm not sure this is the correct part of the agenda.
I'm going to finish then. And I hope when you go home every day, you feel satisfied that you've accomplished something. You are a good staff. This district, I'm sure many people don't realize it, this district is one of the most respected districts in the state of California. Now I know that because I work with directors from many other districts on the Federal Affairs Committee for both sanitation and water. So somehow we should get out to the public the fact that this is a good district, a financially sound district, a district with an excellent staff that acts in the best interest of the ratepayers. So thank you all. I wish you all good luck.
All right.
President Ringer, before you move on, I was handed a speaker request card from Ann Sturman to speak to the board about conservation. I believe that would fall under public comments. Since we don't have an item on the agenda, so we pass that item.
Okay. All right, let's do that. Please keep it to 5 minutes now.
Okay. Thanks. Got a little lost getting here. My name's Ann Sturman. I'm a resident of Westlake Village, and I want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, although there were things on the agenda that brought me here. I was confused as to why the board is going to be voting on this tank and also on raising rates, because I haven't heard much about conservation. And so that's what I want to talk about. Our old bills used to be very informative about how much water we were using. All of that has been cut out. So therefore, I assume that all of us are less motivated to conserve. Now in Los Angeles, they're using as much water today in 2012 as they used in the 1970s. And they have more than 1 million more residents. And that's all due to the fact that people are conserving more water. I don't see this board pushing conservation as much as it could, and instead is potentially raising rates when instead you could be conserving more water. One thing that I know that's being done in the East Bay area in Northern California is that they pay residents, I think it's only $100, $200 to tear out their lawns and put in drought-tolerant plants. And it's saving huge amounts of money up there. And it's saving huge amounts of water. It's saving a lot of money for the people who aren't watering their lawns, and saving a lot of water. So that's one example of how this district could be, instead of putting up a new water tank, could be directing that money to conserve water so there's not a need to make another tank, and hopefully not to raise the rates. So I'm sure you have relationships with lots of water districts. I'm sure you can get lots of ideas on how to conserve. I'd like to see our bills show us how much water we're using like it used to. Those bills actually encouraged our family to cut our water usage significantly. We had one of your employees come out. He looked at every single sprinkler. And we lowered our water usage by, I think it was 25%. And the last thing I'd like to say, which isn't really related to conservation, is I'm a little confused as to why you'd be making votes on two major issues. And maybe you're just moving things along on the rate hikes and on this tank when you know you're going to have a change of leadership soon with a new board member. So I would encourage you not to take votes on anything where it's actually going to make a change. So thank you.
Okay. Let me make a couple of comments. First of all, we do have what we call the Mow No Mow program. Have you heard of it? Okay. That's where we do potentially offer money to people for taking out their lawns and putting in other non-water using ground covers. Unfortunately, while we are very much in favor of conservation, that really won't affect the decision on the tank or not. That involves mostly fire flow and a few emergency measures. And conservation, which is sort of a long-term thing, doesn't really affect that. So I do appreciate your coming in, and yes, I think every last one of us is quite definitely in favor of conservation, and we push it. Well, one other minor thing about rates and conservation. It's an unfortunate fact that we have to cover all of our costs. And while buying less water from Metropolitan Water District will indeed cut the amount of money we have to pay them, we still have some fixed costs, which means that the cost per unit of water will tend to be slightly higher as a result of conservation. That's unfortunate. I wish it were the other way around. Barry, you have a question?
Yes. Thank you for talking about conservation. I have said in print, and I've said it here, that there are devices, one item that you can put on your sprinkler system, that it is partially subsidized, but I'd like to see our district take that even further. that measures the moisture, that can cut the sprinkling system, landscaping, and claims of 30% or more. And we're using 70% of our potable water, the drinking water, for landscaping. If we make that cut, if we go back to the levels of the conservation just recently, in the last year or two, we don't need the water tank. The numbers don't justify it at that point. So conservation is the key, if you go by the numbers, is the key to cutting this water tank out of here and then cutting the radiators.
I think that'd be great. Start with changing your bills back to the way they used to.
And also, like our president said, if we do sell less water, we do have fixed costs, and we've got to cover those costs. Well, just pulling numbers out of the air, let's just suppose your water bill's $100. Now the rate just went up, 20. But now you're saving 30%, so now your bill's down to $90. Well, you don't care that you're paying more for water. Now your bill's down $10. The total bill is what you're interested in. So, I'm with you.
Okay. Thank you again. All right, excuse me. One more question.
Carlos, have we changed our bills?
Yeah.
It looks a little different because we took out the material there or information from the water shortage back when we had allocations. But I do recall that we went ahead and put back the historical usage there for a year. I have to verify that.
The consumption should be on the
The consumption should be on there.
But it's not,
Yeah.
can I-
It is on my bill, that's why I was wondering.
it's not comparative. It doesn't show the prior year.
I think it only goes back for the last year. So you have, the point being is that you can compare your usage for this billing period from the billing period of the previous year.
Not anymore. We used to be able to do that.
Okay, let's check on that.
Okay.
I really like the graphic you used to have on the water consumption with the old allotment system, even after the allotments were stopped. But I understand that we dropped that because there was too much confusion.
People were still viewing as we were in water allocation when we weren't.
Yes, even though there wasn't allocation.
And still thought they were being
It
penalized.
was very informative.
I'd like to hear back from staff at a future meeting as to the resolution of this customer's issue that she's brought to our attention, that historical use is not up to date.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's go on to 4B, that's legislative and regulatory updates.
Actually, we don't have anything to cover tonight.
Okay. Then we go to the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Consent calendar 5A through C.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any
With an
opposed?
abstention from the meetings I did not attend. Otherwise, yes. On the minutes, that is.
Mr. Treasurer, Mr.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, who made the second on that?
Glad.
Taking a look at checks today, randomly, didn't go through all, but what I did go through, everything looks in order, and we're fine.
Good, great. Okay. 7A, revised minutes, regular meetings.
Well, this item was put on because there were questions for a couple of the board meetings from the directors on June 26th and the special meeting of September 4th. We've revised those, and so they're presented to see if you had any additional questions before you approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes, the revised minutes of June 26th and September 4th meetings.
I'll second it. Go ahead.
Barry, second?
Yes, it's a second. Right. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Facilities and operations, the backbone improvement program. The pipeline.
Yeah, we do, just one quick question, I want to make sure, we do have a speaker card for this item, but I think Mr. Marati, I'm sorry. I think you really wanted to talk about the tank project?
That's correct.
Yeah, not the pipeline acceptance.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, just make sure. Okay. Thank you. This is a project, in May of 2011, the board awarded a construction contract to build 8,232 feet of 16-inch pipeline and 2,112 feet of 18-inch pipeline at Gurr Road and Reyes Adobe Road, and also some pipelines in the new Reyes Adobe Bridge, where we were connecting that as they were building that bridge and connecting our system. We've had 3 change orders on the project. Number 1 was for $209,048. The board approved that for additional asphalt, paving, piping adjustments at the bridge, and labor and equipment for change in traffic control required by the city. Change order number 2 is for $30,453 and change, which was also ratified by the board for pipe realignment due to unexpected underground obstacles on a Gurr Road. And change order 3 is before you tonight, along with asking you to accept this project for an additional $38,650. This is due to additional asphalt tonnage. Just so you know, where we get into these projects, we estimate the amount of trench tonnage, but we do have a cost item within the bids that allow for a fee for tonnage on asphalt if it happens to be more or less in this case. But we typically run into the roads are thicker and sometimes the trenches have to be wider, and so we end up having to put more asphalt in, and the contractor asks for a change order. So for those 3 change orders, you've already approved 2. We're asking you for the approval of the 3rd and to accept this project. The pipelines are complete. Questions? Director Peterson, got a question?
Was there a claim filed by the restaurant?
No, there was not.
Do you anticipate it?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you.
Guess we'll have to go and have dinner now. They're going to be nice
I
about
move the resolution.
I'll second it.
it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we get to C, the Rancho Third Gestures and B. Sorry, that's the tank. All right, now, again, staff gets the first say, and then another.
David Lippman has a short presentation tonight, just a little bit of a recap of where we've come to this point, and certainly we've opened up to questions, and I do have several speaker cards inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 4 speaker cards.
Okay.
Please bear with me while I take the PowerPoint. Good evening, and thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
No problem.
Tonight we were recommending the approval of a design contract for the 5 million gallon tank, and that's just one of several improvements that make up the backbone improvement program. And just as a refresher, the backbone improvement program consists of transmission main improvements in Agora Hills. We just accepted that project on just the previous item. It includes transmission main improvements in Calabasas, which we should go out to bid here shortly. So it will include the expansion of the Westlake filtration plant, the modernization of the Westlake pump station, which is located near 3 Springs Park, and then the construction of the 5 million gallon tank at the Las Virgenes Reservoir. The backbone improvement program is intended to meet both current and future needs, peaking needs, annual demands, deficiencies in storage, and it's going to allow us to use the Las Virgenes Reservoir to a much greater extent than we are able to now to meet emergencies and provide for summertime peaking needs. Because we're building for both the current and future needs, the projects are funded from 2 different sources. They're funded from replacement money funds, and they're funded from construction funds. It's about a 2/3, 1/3 split. Construction funds come from potable water connection fees, and by law, you cannot use that money to offset operating costs. There's been some suggestions that the money that is set aside for this construction could be used to offset some of the upcoming rate increases. Not all of that money is available to do that, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that point. Now, the district does have some discretion when it comes to the design elements in our water system. As an example, we can make a determination on what we think would be the maximum velocity in a pipeline during a fire flow system, as an example. But we don't have discretion in many other areas. One area that we don't have discretion in is meeting fire flow requirements. That's set by the LA County Fire Department. And it depends on the size of the structure and the type of the structure, and that dictates the fire flow that we have to be able to meet at all times. Another area that we don't have discretion on, and this is from the state of California, Title 22, is we have to meet maximum day demands at all times. Again, that is not discretionary. Our system has to be sized, have the right pipes, pumps, tanks, and sources to meet max day demand at all times. Because of those two regulatory requirements, we designed the system to meet fire flow and to meet max day demand at the same time. I just wanted to go through a short chronology of how we got to the point where we are tonight. The master plan was approved in October of 2007. Beginning in late 2008, we started to work on an alternative study for the backbone improvement program. That included all the features that I spoke about earlier. And we also started to work on a mitigated negative declaration. While we were preparing that, and after we prepared it, we gave presentations at the City of Westlake Council meeting. We met with the City of Calabasas, Agora Hills. We gave several presentations to committee meetings and to several different HOAs. The MMD was adopted in October of 2009 after it was circulated publicly. In 2010, we started design of the transmission main portion of the pipeline of the backbone improvement program. And again, as you took the action just earlier, you accepted the transmission main project in Agora Hills. While we were doing that, we continued to develop additional information related to the tank and the siting at the Las Virgenes Reservoir. All of these board meetings and this workshop that is shown in the bottom of this timeline are the public meetings when information was prepared and presented related to the tank. It may have done with why the tank is needed. It may have to do with different access to the tank. We looked at the possibility of valley fever. We looked at different types of siting and different types of alternative access. We looked at the lasting of the site, a variety of things. All that information is available on our website. This information and outreach effort continued through the beginning of this year. We had a second workshop in March, and then in June, this board selected Site A as the preferred site for the tank, and directed us to move forward with issuing an RFP for the design services. And so over the last 2 years, the public and yourselves have asked a lot of good questions. And we spent a lot of time and effort answering those questions. I'm going to go through just a couple of them, not all of them. All the material that we developed over the last 2 years related to the backbone program and the tank are available on our website. Many of the questions really had to do with why is the tank needed and what is the basis of design. Several of the questions related to population projections. I'm not going to focus on population projections as a percentage because that can be kind of misleading unless you talk about what base you take your percentage from. You know, as an example, if I say my gas went up 10% from yesterday, maybe it had gone up 20% from the day before. Rather, what we focused on was 3 planning studies that we conducted. The 2005 Urban Water Management Plan, the 2007 Master Plan, and the 2010 Urban Water Management Plan. All 3 of those planning documents projected generally the same population in 2030. So we were confident in those planning numbers and confident in the water demand projections that resulted from those planning numbers. So when you hear that population is going to increase by 30%, that's a true number depending on what base you take it from. When you hear population is going to increase by 16%, that's a true number depending on what base you take it from also. Questions came up about demand recovery following the drought. So we did an analysis that focused on conservation factors, economic factors, and demand patterns. So that analysis showed that we're going to recover to the 2007 levels of demand. If I can figure out how to make this work. Sorry, guys. 2007 demand levels were right here, and that was our highest demand. Based on that analysis that was done by Dr. Randall Orton, we expect that demands are going to grow to those levels again, even with additional conservation that were implemented and have in the past in the next 45 years. Questions were asked about the size of the tank. So we did a sensitivity analysis that looked at a variety of different demand conditions, and that's through here, and then determined the size of the tank based on those demand conditions. And you can see that the tank would range from 2 million to 5 million gallons, depending on what demand condition you chose. We also did an analysis looking at would it save any money if we constructed a smaller tank now and then a second tank later. The answer to that is it would save very little money, because much of your effort is initially put into grading the site and the buried infrastructure that goes to the site. You have double mobilization and all those other things associated with doing it twice also. Questions were asked about the reliability of the system with and without the tank. So we did an analysis showing how soon storage would be depleted in both the east and the west of the system. In the west, what we showed under different demand scenarios is that the total storage in the western system could be depleted in as short as 10 hours. It takes at least 8 hours to bring the treatment plant online. So you may have, if you had 2011 demands, you may have a couple hours of storage left. You likely wouldn't have enough volume of water to provide fire protection. You can see under these other demand scenarios that you would deplete storage before you can bring the treatment plant up online to provide service. Questions were also asked about what level of conservation would we have to reach in order to eliminate the need for the tank. We did an analysis on that, and what that analysis told us is that we would have to go down to the 1980s or the level that we saw in the last drought in order to eliminate the need for the tank.
Even that was 38%, as I recall.
That was a 38% overall the district, not just one community in the district, but everywhere in the district.
Can you, David, quick question on that.
Yes, sir.
The demand reduction in the drought, would you list the 3 most important factors that allowed that kind of a drop?
I can list the one most important factor, and that is penalties. That is the main reason that you saw this dramatic drop in demand during both of these drought events. The second most important factor was education, and then probably second is obviously conservation by our customers. But the main motivator to get you down to these levels in both of these drought scenarios is we were allocating water, and associated with that was penalties.
About $6.5 million.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The slide's blank on purpose because I'm just going to talk for a few minutes. Because recently some other questions have come up about the possibility of using a boil order to provide service. Basically taking untreated water out of the Las Virgenes reservoir and pushing it into the system when you need it to fight a fire or when you need it to meet demands. That would violate the Clean Water Act, and we would be violating primary drinking water standards. And in doing so, you would have to have all restaurants, hotels, schools, businesses boil any water before they drink it, boil any water before they prepared food. And we don't have the authority to issue boil orders. Only the Department of Public Health have the authority to issue boil orders. Issuing a boil order to avoid building infrastructure is not a viable solution. Many other questions were asked about the need for the tank, different access roads to the tank, and I'm not going to repeat that information tonight because I think we've shared it plenty of times with both yourselves and the public, and again, that information is available on our website. Now I just want to talk about the RFP and the process that we went through to get these the proposals for design. When you approved sending out the RFP in June, we sent it out to 5 different firms. We received 3 proposals ranging in the cost from about $621,000 to $437,000. Staff is recommending that the proposal from AECOM in the amount of $497,777 be accepted. Now, the AECOM proposal is about $60,000 more than the HDR proposal, the second, the lowest proposal. But we believe that they bring added value to the project. In one area, they're very familiar with the project itself. They were the firm that designed the Westlake filter plant. And so they can integrate not only this tank into the operations of the filter plant, but into the operations of the system itself. They bring some additional added value in that they have a subcontract with a specialized outreach firm. Because we made a commitment way back when, during the mitigated negative debt process, that we were going to work with the city and the community related to traffic impacts, related to blasting impacts, and related to aesthetics for this tank. By bringing in a specialized firm, that's really going to help facilitate that process so that we create as little impact as possible while we're building this facility. Moving forward, we expect the design of the tank to be complete by April of 2013, and the construction to be complete sometime towards the end of 2014. We'll be calling for bids for the Calabasas pipelines very soon, and we anticipate starting the design of the filter plant expansion and the pump station modernization in late 2013, hopefully completing the backbone program sometime in 2015 and 2016. And with that, again, we are recommending that the board accept the proposal from AECOM to proceed with the design of that single component of the backbone improvement program, and that's the 5 mil tank at Site A. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
For the benefit of those in attendance, would you confirm that this project is not approved until it is the cost, the design, and the costs are reviewed, and that will be in the second or third quarter of 2013?
That is correct. What we're asking you tonight is to approve.
I understand that. I just want the audience to understand that tonight's decision
is to
go forward, not necessary to approve the project.
That is correct.
The project will not be approved until a quarter or 2 quarters after the new general manager is aboard and can take a look at it and give his input. Is that right?
That is correct. The next milestone would be an award of a contract to build the facility, likely in the third quarter of 2013.
But it is to approve $500,000.
Would you do one more thing for me for the benefit of the audience? A lot of talk about population growth and what base and who did the study, etc. Would you explain to the audience what an equivalent residential unit is for growth in industrial and commercial areas? Because I think it's pretty widely accepted that there will be significant growth in the commercial area, we got the Hilton Foundation building coming on board soon. We have development in Westlake. We have the Westlake Village City Council of the policy of redoing the specific plan for its industrial area to bring in more commercial and bring in more residential. So would you explain to the audience that projections for demand are based not only on population, but on consumption by industrial and commercial users, and what an equivalent residential unit is?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
When we project water demands, we look at not only residential demands, but we look at industrial and commercial demand also. One way that you can make commercial and industrial demand equivalent to residential demand is through what's called an equivalent residential unit. It's a term and a factor that we use more when we are estimating the generation of sewage. But in projecting demands, we look at residential growth throughout the district, we look at commercial growth and industrial growth throughout the district, as well as changes in land use. And I think there's several examples out there that look at how land use is changing in the district. Just down the street here, off of Agora Road, there's a 1-acre site that was zoned for fairly large residential units. I think half a dozen or so. They are putting 40 senior housing units in there. Admittedly, 40 smaller units don't use the same amount of water as a residence does, and so that's why you have to have that equivalence factor. But it does increase the demand, so changes in land use increase demand also. So the growth is just not from residential growth. When I look at my community, I live in Agora Hills, I look out my front door, there's nowhere they're going to put houses. But when I look at the district as a whole, there is the potential for growth out there.
Wayne?
Yes, this is perhaps too technical of a point, but I am able to operate the microphones. And this may sound like a quibble, but actually the project has been approved. It is correct to say that the project can be stopped at any time by action of the board. And if you don't approve the design tonight, for example, it's not going anywhere because it has to be designed. And if you don't approve the award of construction contract, some board meeting in the future, it's not going to be constructed. But the project was approved. It's just, there's a lot of approval. It's not one approval. It's approved that in principle, the preliminary design, the design, award construction, someday maybe, accept the contract and close out the work and start operating it. So that sounds like a quibble, but I think it's an important distinction.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Since you brought up the commercial, about how much of our water is actually used by commercial units now?
You know, I don't know that percentage off the top of my head. I would guess it's no more than 20%.
I've always thought of it as being almost entirely residential.
No, there is commercial, but it's not a substantial part of our water demand.
Thank you.
Can we ask any questions?
Okay, not yet. What will happen is you will get to speak, the public will get to speak, and then we will discuss amongst ourselves, and we may ask the public questions.
If you have a question about this presentation, you cannot ask me.
Yeah, fill out a speaker card.
Yeah, please. Go ahead and fill out one of those pink slips.
You're on the table. You need to fill out a pink speaker card. We have other folks ahead of you that would like to speak, so if you could complete that and hand it to me, I'll make sure that we call you to the podium.
I just wanted to ask a question.
I know, but we've got other folks that have questions and they've asked to speak ahead of you, so I'm going to...
We're going to try to stick with protocol. We don't always, but we try to.
I have
Barry, you have a question for you.
Mr. Lemieux, thank you very much for clarifying that it already has been approved. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting this dissertation going through point A to point B, some of which I absolutely don't agree with, such as the growth issue, which has gone down since our reports have been done since 2007. I go back to a meeting where it's been brought up tonight that we can't use the $7 million to offset rate costs, but it was said by a key person employed by the district that we can use that. So somehow that has changed then till now. I don't know why.
Let me clarify. We didn't say you can't use the money. What we're saying tonight is part of that money is funded through connection fees, so that portion you cannot use.
All right, so we could take, okay.
The board can decide to use whatever reserves you have in any manner you decide.
Okay, so we do have 7 million we could use.
Well,
and at 33%, we could use that for other construction down the road and pull money out of there to put over here and just get the money that we need. I guess, and I've got quite a few questions here, but I'm confused here. Are we out of compliance right now?
Yes, we cannot meet maximum day demand in the Western system under certain conditions.
Have we had one of those conditions yet?
No.
not in recent years, but in past years, we did run equestrian tank dry in the west end of the system. And the thing that's helped us in recent years, we put in piping improvements that's allowed us to move more water through the system. But we're still very vulnerable if we're shut off or met, if we have high demands, and we have, certainly fire flows, and I don't anticipate all that happening at the same time.
And the other thing, the fortunate thing is that we had the water allocation starting in 2008, which, obviously decreased our demand substantially because we had an increased demand substantially, and people were being penalized for it. So your max day demand during that time period went down. But as Dr. Orton's analysis shows, and as we can demonstrate with the numbers that we're seeing in our water sales, demand is going back up.
Okay. Now, I'm told it wouldn't cost that much less for a smaller tank. Well, I've been given the number 20% less to go to a 3 million gallon tank. In my book, that's $1.4 million. I don't have 1.4 sitting around. I think that's a lot of money. In regards to the boil water order, first, let's make it clear. Yes, this water's been sitting out in the reservoir, and it needs to be filtered. But it has come into this reservoir filtered once. And yes, bird droppings and whatever else has gone in, but it has been filtered once. And yes, we need to get Department of Health to approve the boiled water order. I'm aware of how that works. I've checked into it, and we can get that. I go back to the earthquakes that we've had in the San Fernando Valley. We had boiled water orders there. It worked. It wasn't the problem. It got out to the public, and people knew you had to boil water. So we might have an inconvenience of something that we're not out of compliance now, because it hasn't happened yet, for 8 to 10 hours. So we've got approximately 3 billion gallons of water sitting where this tank is going to be put for 5 million gallons. And it was brought up that businesses and so forth could have problems. Be aware that there are businesses here that filter their own water already. We have the Four Seasons Hotel who filters their own water.
That would not excuse them from the boil order.
It may not excuse them from the boil order, or it may. I don't know that answer because they've got a complete filtration system that filters our water before their guests get to use our water. I've seen it, I know about it, and they've spent a lot of money on that. Now, getting back to which firm we might use. First off, AECOM's going to supply a $33,000 public outreach scope. I just heard one of our directors say that we have a great outreach program here, great outreach people here. Now we're saying we don't have great people and we can't get them to do the outreach. I am kind of blown away that we can't use our own staff and we're going to spend $60,000 more because half of that money is going to go to an outreach firm. If we can't do it in-house, we got another problem. And I'm not saying we can't do it in-house, but that's not a reason for me to spend $60,000 more because we're going to get an outreach firm. I think that's ridiculous. And In regards to HDR, they're very qualified. The people who worked on our filtration system, I question how many of those people are still working for AECOM, because people move around, people retire. So when we say, well, those people built it, those people may not even be here today. So why aren't we looking more seriously at HDR, if I were to vote that way? But that's $60,000 difference. So I see no reason that HDR, if I were to have voted on that, would be the firm that we should be using.
One of the engineers is here tonight that was involved in the Westlake filtration plant construction that's working for AECOM. So we do have history here.
So we do have one person that, but HDR has worked for different projects in this district.
We're not saying they can't do it.
No, HDR is a company.
We're making a recommendation.
And I would see no reason why HDR could be used for using a lesser amount.
Okay.
I don't know if AECOM was involved with the outside design of the plant, was it?
Yes.
I would never vote for AECOM. Seeing the outside of the water filtration plant is really obscene, and that's really a waste. To see the archways, the arched doors coming into the filtration system that nobody in this public room has ever seen unless you were invited up there. You'll never see it from the street. You might not even see it from a helicopter. But we spent a lot of money on the beauty of that building that the vast majority of these people will never ever see. That was waste. And maybe that's the difference between the two firms. I don't know, but that's not the way I go.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's time for us to hear from the public. So, John, if you...
I have Mrs. Marody first.
Hi, my name is Craig Morondo on Grand Oaks Drive in Westlake Village. Thanks for the opportunity to address you. I'm just going to simply ask that you not approve moving forward with the tank. It sounds like conservation can certainly be a viable option for us to proceed with. I may be one of your best customers. You know, during the summer months, I'm paying you $600 every 2 months, probably on the extreme side, but I can certainly benefit from it. I think the community can benefit from it. And I think that's really the only long-term option that we have. I think you look at the growth trends, we have to do the conservation route, and I applaud you for getting up and talking about that, because that really is the only long-term route. There's tremendous opposition to the tank in Three Springs. I'd say at this point you have seen only the tip of the iceberg once the community truly gets engaged around this. The aesthetics, the disruption potential, the cost, all are things that the community is very opposed to. So again, I'd like to ask you to not approve this going forward. I would like to thank you for being the reservoir or the filtration plant. The aesthetics are appreciated.
All right, next.
Kayla Saying? I'm sorry I butchered that, I'm sure.
You got it right.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Kayla Saying, and I'm just a resident of Westlake Village. And again, I'd like to reiterate what my fellow residents are asking, is that this not be approved at this time. I think there are other measures that can be taken. I think that the public basically is unaware of what is proposed and how it would impact us. And I believe that, as you mentioned, penalties are the way to get us to conserve, so why not go back to that and have people conserve and not, you know, have the expense of building another tank and the disruption of construction and all of that stuff, because I think that it would better suit us. And I think that if more of the residents of Westlake Village had the opportunity to learn about this, I think you would hear a far bigger outcry and a serious request to not move forward with this project. Thank you.
Okay, next.
I'm not sure I got enough.
Thank you. Good.
My name is Anu Bhomik. I live at 284 Shelby Place. And initially I only had a question for David Lippman, but I want to reflect the views of the two previous speakers, that it's premature and looks like it's a hurried decision to approve things today, especially since we'll have a new manager, I believe, and also a new director, I believe, who will be coming on very soon. So I request that you withhold any of the decisions until those positions are filled. The question I had for Mr. David Lippman, maybe this has already been presented, but I couldn't find what the relative capacities are of the existing reservoir, which is a dam, I think, next to the park, what its total capacity is, what is the capacity that is being used today, what's the unused capacity, and how does that compare with the tank that we're proposing to build? That's one question. The other question was, we talked about residential versus industrial usage of water, and I didn't get a clear picture of what rates the industrial users pay versus residential users pay, and what the ratio of the usage is.
Dave?
If I understood your first question, I believe the question is, what capacity can we use the reservoir to at this time, and what capacity can we use it to in the future? Is that correct?
What is the unused capacity that we can utilize in today?
Right now, we can take on an annual basis and replace on an annual basis about 2,500 acre-feet of water in and out of that reservoir. Without the backbone improvements, you can't take any more than that out. By developing the backbone improvements, you can increase that to about 3,500 acre-feet of water.
May I interject something? I think your question is aimed at the question of, is this tank significantly adding to the amount of water stored there? Okay.
The answer
The answer is no. That's not its purpose at all. Okay. Somebody came up with a number of 600, that the reservoir itself has 600 times the capacity of the tank.
It's on our website.
Yeah, okay. It may even be more than that. The tank is minuscule compared to the reservoir itself. The reason that we need it is, okay, as was mentioned, we get treated water from Metropolitan Water District, which can be drunk directly, no problem at all. We put it into the reservoir. At that point, state law intervenes because there are fish in the reservoir, and I can guarantee you there are birds running around, flying around there. So there is some pollution of that water. In the old days, it would have been okay to drink it directly, I believe.
After disinfection.
But that's, okay, but that's not true anymore. It has to be filtered and treated before it can be put back into the drinking water lines. Okay. Now, we don't run the filtration tank plant 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. We use it mostly for peaking in the summer and during emergencies, or when we've been cut off from our supply by the the Metropolitan Water District, which does happen. Okay, having said that, it takes time to get the plant up and running. In the meantime, what we want to do is use the 5 million gallons of fully treated water that's in the 5 million gallon tank to feed the lines. Now that's necessary during fire flow, during the peak of the summer when there's excess demand and we need to get stuff out of the reservoir, but we had gotten the treatment plant running. And when we run out of, when we don't get water from the Department of Water, Metropolitan Water District, the DWP on the line. So, did I make it clear why we're doing this?
To some extent, yeah. We have not needed to do that so far.
We've come close to it, and we're going to be going over the line in the future according to any reasonable estimates.
That again goes back to projected growth?
Partly that, yes.
Growth and demand.
Right.
Which I think it's important, public, we don't project that growth. We get that from the county and the local cities, and so, you know, we're not making up the numbers per se. We do depend upon their numbers. And it is true, certainly growth in the district is decreased over the years. But we still anticipate through the planning documents to see some communities have enough growth that we'll need to have additional facilities to meet that future demand.
Thank you. Okay. And the other part was regarding residential versus industrial usage.
Yeah, I asked how
rates do they pay?
Okay, the rates are...
Could we ask you, could we take that offline if you
Sure.
don't mind? We'd like maybe give you a call, or you can call us and we can talk specifically about that.
Thank you.
They're a little more detailed than we can get into tonight, but
Good day.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Good. Next.
Neil Tickton.
Okay.
Neil Tickton, Westlake Village. It's hard to comment in a few minutes when Mr. Lippman took so much longer than that with a lot of completely new information. But in short, because the district is not collaborative and because it is not capable of communicating well, you create a situation where you want your customers, your constituents to basically take your word for it, that the tank is needed. And that's just not appropriate for a public organization to do. What is appropriate is to show people why the tank is necessary, communicate it well, and collaborate to find even better ideas. And I know you think you've done that, but it's clear from our recent vote that, and the public comments and the discussion with the community, you just haven't. We've just heard some new information tonight for the first time that certain monies cannot be used. Who's right? The general manager who has given me comments before, board members, or the newly revealed information from Mr. Lippman. I've been told by the district that the fire code is not a requirement. It is a recommendation. The fire department does not have the ability to say, you must have this available to it. They want it, it may be a very good idea, but it's apparently a recommendation. Mr. Caspery and others have told me that we have the option of using the reservoir water and issuing a boil order.
I never said that.
Actually, we did outside White Oak Elementary, standing on the sidewalk. I very clearly recall it. Especially in a true emergency. Again, who's right? And now for the first time, we're hearing again new information about boilers. It almost seems that every time that a real question isn't answered, and that there might be a good objection to it, that there's suddenly like new information on the day of a vote. And again, no time for the community to evaluate or question further. Honestly, the information changes so much, so often, and with so many constant changes to what are the priorities, the primary reasoning behind the tank, you make everyone question what is really driving the concerns. And that's one type of communication that's just not done well. I mean, you don't want to be communicating that there's some other issues that are going on here. You want to show them why it's really necessary. It would be irresponsible to move forward tonight with the tank. There are other ways which are far likely better. I get that the tank gives options. In many ways, it's like a spare tire on a car. It gives a lot of flexibility to deal with a situation that you may not want to. But right now, it appears like it's the second spare tire on the car, not the first spare tire on the car. You already have a spare tire. As far as action items for tonight, as I said, put the tank on hold. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying pause. You still have not shown it to be necessary. There are so many reasons not to do it. You've not answered a lot of questions still. And because the primary reasons to keep changing, Mr. Ranger tonight has very clearly articulated what he believes to be the primary reasons, which is a completely different set of primary reasons than we've seen in the past. There's a lot of confusion, and you're basing the decision on out-of-date information without risk assessments, without proper engineering evaluation that has been done that so many people are used to in the private sector. The tank has not stood up to outside scrutiny. You have a new general manager about to come online, and he may have a very different idea of how to approach things. You've not communicated to the public why it's worth 25 to 40% rate increases. And yes, I'm adding up all of the pieces of the rate increases over the several minutes in there. There's just no rush to do it. You have brushed aside the constituents' concerns simply because you want to build this project, and I don't want to see you do that. Now, I know you want to see the rate increases and pay for the tank. No matter how you slice it, the rate increase is effectively paying for the tank. Mr. Mundy has been clear that the tank is not, if the tank is not built, the monies can be used to offset rate increases. Mr. Seinhardt has said the same. Mr. Bowman has has even talked about using reserves to offset increases. I think there's a way to make use of that $7 million to offset rate increases if you indeed want to offset them in that way. As I've said before, actions speak louder than words. It does not matter what you say in response to my comments tonight. It's all about what you do in your actions. If tonight you proceed with the tank, you proceed with the rate increases and dismiss what you're saying, then that's our answer. If you pause so that you evaluate other ways of doing this and look at other options on it and look at the new GM and the new director, then I think you will have a lot more of the community on your side. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Tippett, I'm very pleased that you came tonight. I'm sorry that you weren't able to come to many of our other meetings when a lot of these items were discussed. It's been months since we've seen you, and I'm very pleased to see you here. I appreciate your comments very much. I would just ask that you to consider what makes our communities here so desirable. The beautiful land areas that we enjoy, the beautiful developments that have been built here, the fantastic school system, and when the district was formed 50 years ago, it was to provide safe, reliable water to an area whose wells had all gone dry when there was virtually no one here. We've heard from members of the public that we should offset rate increases by not building the tank. In my mind, that seriously affects the reliability of the system that the district was formed to promote, reliable water supplies. Directors, aka politicians, have an obligation to make their best informed judgments on issues. And some politicians may temper that with the fear of not being reelected, and thereby kicking the can down the road. You don't have to look as far as Washington, D.C. to see that. We can see that in our own state legislature. You've made a comment that, no outside scrutiny on the tank project.
I don't think that was quite the way I said it, but so it has not stood up to outside scrutiny is what I said.
Would you call Mr. Martin Jensen an outside scrutineer?
And it hasn't stood up to his comments.
Mr. Jensen, I believe, questions the need for a 5 million, but seems to believe a 3 million gallon would be appropriate, given the projections. And if he disagrees with that,
He's here.
Is he going to speak on it?
Mr. Jensen
Oh, good.
has a card.
I'm glad.
But to be clear, I don't believe that that is reflective of what he actually thinks in the conversation.
It may not be reflective of what he intends to tell us. I'll withhold comment. Thank you, sir.
If I can just comment on one thing you said, on a couple of meetings that I was not able to be here because I had stuff scheduled last year at that time. In 2 of the cases, those meetings had been recorded in one form or another. So while I wasn't actually here, there was a letter that was read on my behalf, which I very much appreciate being done, and number 1. And number 2, I did hear the meeting afterwards. So while I wasn't here having interaction, I did get the information out of the meeting. Again, a good reason why the videos are necessary to do.
Mark, we hear comments tonight that we don't tell the people in the community what's going on. We have had 2 workshops, public workshops on this project. Well noticed, ads in the paper, all kinds of communications to homeowners associations to tell particularly the people in 3 Springs all about this project and all about the details of the project. One was held July of 11 and March of 12. A long time in between there. At the request of Mr. Tipton, after the March 12, well, let me backtrack. Mr. Ticken, earlier than March 12, asked that we take a fresh look at this project. I told him we would. And this board directed staff to go back, check every number, check every calculation, check every regulation, talk to our outside consultant, and come back to the board and tell us whether or not their recommendation for the tank still stood. They did that in March. Now, some people seem not to be satisfied that that was taking a fresh look at the project. I don't know why. Then when Mr. Ticken, Neil, I've tried to communicate with you as best I can. I hope you'd agree that that's a fair statement. And when you missed the meetings in June, I asked you to sit down and visit with me, and we'd go over all the new information that was generated in June regarding the need for the tank. And it was looked at from a different direction. Not all the technical stuff about how much water we should have in storage versus design standards and common levels used in other districts, et cetera, et cetera. But we asked staff to look at it from a very different standpoint, and that is, what if this happens, what if that happens? How many hours of water do we have? A whole new approach was done by staff. One of those screens tonight reflected that, those scenarios of how many hours of water we would have under different circumstances. And I'm sorry you didn't sit down with me then and go over that. Maybe we could have avoided some of your angst. But that was another effort by this district to communicate to the public why this tank is needed. So, you know, when you're sitting up here at the dais and you hear from the audience, you don't communicate with us, it gets pretty frustrating sometimes. So, you're still not satisfied that the tank is needed?
I am not in any way, two things in here. First off, and I have to get the whole sentence out, I am not against the tank. I understand that everybody wants to believe that that's the case. I am against a project that hasn't shown to be necessary. It is still not been shown to be necessary. And there are many questions that I have tried to ask, and I've gotten no answer or an evasive answer on it. An evasive not intentionally, because that would imply that somebody was intentionally hiding something. And I believe that every staff member and every board member is somebody that has strong feelings about the water district and about doing the right thing from their point of view of doing the right thing. And I take the comments I made to you earlier about thank you for your service. I so deeply mean that. I hope you know that. The problem is that, and I'm going to, you'll have to make up your own mind as to whether I am truly an expert in communication or not. I am regularly on radio. I author a lot of things. I publish on the publisher and editor-in-chief of the magazine. I have led the creation of the technology strategy, a very technical project at the school district and stuff. I have a lot of experience in communicating. And I truly believe that this district has done everything in its capabilities to communicate to the extent that it knows how to do. I just don't think you know how to communicate. And I don't think that you're understanding that you are not good at communicating. And that when you see this many people in a boardroom saying, hey, we've got issues, we don't understand this, even some of the basic questions out there. I mean, I know about no-mo-go or whatever. What is it? Mo-no-mo in there. But clearly there are other people that don't. These are indications that this is a district that does not communicate well. So it's not that the tank shouldn't happen. There's no rush for it. There are lots of other ideas. There are times that you guys have presented ideas at the workshops that you're talking about, or answers for stuff, but it's not an interactive or collaborative method. You get a situation where the board members or staff go and say things, and I understand that there's a certain legal structure to the way a meeting needs to be run, I get that, but there are ways to actually interact with people and make them feel like they're being communicated to. And this district has not been able to do that. It has not done it to date, and that is why you have all these people that are concerned. Just show us why it's actually necessary without the reasons changing every 30 seconds. Please.
Yeah, you talk about communication being so important, and certainly the accuracy of communications are very important. And I would like a little further explanation. In fact, I think on your, it has been reported that a 40% rate increase. You know, who reported 40% that you chose to publish? That's the number you chose to communicate, but it has no reflection in any of the legal documents that the district is required by law to send. Notices of rate changes. The district went so far overboard because a lot of districts chose to send 1 page. We sent, I believe it was over 8. So the 40% number was clearly a communication to achieve a desired end, and I'll leave you.
Are you going to speak on the rates?
Yes.
I'll save that question.
I think you should save that, because this is about a tank.
I retract my question.
Good.
I have Mr. Martin Jansen as the last speaker.
Neil, have you put out another card for the rates?
We have one card he covered everything with, so.
Okay.
I follow instructions.
Martin? Good. Is that lunch? Is that lunch? We're not going to hear that long.
Surprise. Gentlemen directors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Martin Jansen. I live at 29406 Promontory Place in the River Hills. You haven't seen me for a while here, and one of the reasons was addressed earlier by Mr. Tickton. We won't go back into that. But I'm aware that my reputation is little support. So who is Martin Jansen? Well, I'm a degreed mechanical engineer, now retired, with 42 years of experience in the oil tube industry, that's subsea drilling and production at 7,000 feet below, in oil transportation, and I've been there as an R&D engineer, an engineering section manager, a project engineer, project manager, sales manager, and manager of the quality assurance department in the last year or so. During that time, 17 patents were put in my name. 9 of those patents I'm the only inventor on, and 8 of those patents are joint inventors with other colleagues that I work with at this point in time. Why am I saying this? Because I want to qualify the fact that I can think out of the box. And I'm going to present you some ideas tonight that are out of the box that will help show that this tank would not be needed. Okay, so first of all, and this is also for the benefit of the audience a little bit, I suppose, is really why is the tank needed? Mr. Lippman's talked about this a little bit, and that is basically to preserve a minimum amount of storage at an elevation, a gravity elevation, that will feed water to the users in case of a metropolitan water district failure, or to make an insufficient flow that would otherwise be brought in by metropolitan during peak summer seasons when there's called peak hour demand or maximum day demand. 1.5 million gallons of that is fire water. This is designated by this preliminary list that we talked about. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, Mr. Casper. 2.52 in emergency supply. That's basically in case of the pumping system at the Metropolitan Water House fire, going out of business, or having a problem. Although I don't know how that 2.52 number was generated. And 3.65 million gallons of operational peak summer demands. Now let's focus on that one for a minute, because that's the important one for the tank issue. You're not leaving us, are you? Anyway, the 3.65 million operational is to overcome peak demand. Now what's peak demands? That means in the summertime when it's really hot, everybody turns on their tap, and we need additional water from the tanks as well as the stuff that's flowing in from Metropolitan Water District to make up the demand in various areas. This totals up to what these people think of as total storage. We already have in storage, we have storage right now, according to this preliminary memo here of 7.2 million gallons. According to this right now, we have about 4 to 5% of shortage, which is what this is talking about. Now, maximum day demand, we have to look at that. In the summertime, we use more lake of water, but 70% of our water, our fresh water, is used for landscaping and other irrigational purposes.
Can you address the board, please?
So,
thanks.
70% of our water is common, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's like approximately 70% of the fresh water, drinking water that we import, used for irrigating our lawns, your vines, possibly. Okay? And this, if we take out that 70%, okay, and compare it to the 3.65, okay, that's 2.5 billion gallons of water we're talking about that supports that peak demand thing that's got to landscaping. So let's see if we can do something about that to offset this landscaping use thing. What I'd like to show the board today is an idea. This is your typical landscaping sprinkler control area. This is a solenoid switch. It's an electrical solenoid that opens and closes this valve. Now, if the West Virgenes Water District were to issue something that I'm calling, for example, an SCS, or Storage Conservation Switch, that were to be put in place between this valve and the control switch, or the timers, as it's called, which is usually inside the house. And this switch is controlled by the Virgenes Water District by means of a cell phone communication link, much like they do the smart water meter system that they have now. So that when the total storage required in the tanks that we have now, which is the sum of the 1.5 water and the 2.52 of emergency, gets threatened, that the district sends out a signal that says, wait a minute, switch, open the switch so that this thing can't work anymore, okay, until the emergency is over, until enough fire water has been restored into the storage systems to bring it back up to the required level. In other words, we would not get into a situation where the total number of fire water would not get there. This switch would normally still be controlled by the homeowner, but only in emergencies could this switch be used and operated by us Virgenes Water District to offset the fact that you're going to run out of sewer water.
You're running out of time, though. I think we do understand.
Time? Because I got some more things to talk about.
Mr. President, can I ask that? I'm kind of intrigued what he's talking about, this part. The first part I could do without. This part sounds kind of interesting, if we could.
So the same technology that you people use now for smart water meters, okay, could you just operate?
Excuse me, can I just ask a simple question? I'm a simple man. You're saying that there's this technology to turn off your sprinklers, basically. All right, so if we're in a tough situation and we need water, what's wrong with going out and manually turning off your sprinklers?
You may not be able to reach the people that are going to do it.
Pardon?
You might not be able to reach the folks that are going to do it.
Most of the people are working their automatic sprinklers.
And in case of an earthquake, or in case of when it's raining, where people normally leave their sprinkler systems on, this also could be turned off to conserve water. Okay.
But we've been very successful in getting customers to reduce demand in emergency situations without equipment. So, and that's a pretty big expense if you consider what we're spending on AMR meters. So.
Okay, the second point, again, this is a positive right here. Well, you might not think so, Mr. Peterson. There's quite a bit of water being used for wineries nowadays. You have some nice in Santa Monica Mountains. And it seems to me to be congruent that we're importing water 800 miles away, fresh drinking water to water bodies. I asked Mr. Lundy in an email on August 13th, well, just how much water are we going to these wineries, and he refused to answer that.
Do you want me to answer it? I've been waiting for months. I'll answer it right now.
I'll get to you. I'll get to the...
No, I want to answer your question.
If you mind, I'll finish first.
Well,
It's my time, not your time you use here.
You're actually running over time,
Okay.
so.
I want to answer your question because it's a good question.
Good.
Maybe
Maybe finish my
press.
point first, Mr. Peterson, and I'll get to your
When you
question.
ask me how much water do grapes use, you've asked that question. Grapes I use 12 gallons per plant, 12 gallons for the whole year. 12 gallons. I use a drip system, water twice, and it delivers water at half a gallon per hour.
Mr. Peterson,
You're using more water in your low-flow shower head than I use for my grapes.
Very
I'm
good.
done.
Now, if the obvious answer is either use recycled water, but we won't go into that right now, but there's another big answer, and that's this reservoir here. This big reservoir that's over here. I've been explained to me that that reservoir is polluted. Bird droppings and things of that nature. And further, I've been informed that the bottom third of that lake is really polluted to the point where we can't use it. Wouldn't that not be ideal water to put on your grapes? Would it not be the right thing to do to put a suction line at the bottom of that lake, pump it out, and provide it to the vendors that are thing?
Okay, stop.
Conclusion.
Your time is up.
Can I have my
No,
conclusion?
no, you've actually done, you've set it up. You have some interesting points. Now, I will make one comment. When it comes to the bottom of the lake, yes, that could be pumped out. The reality is, we would love to find uses for our reclaimed water. One of the good things about this district is that we take the sewage, we tertiary treat it, we actually bring it up to where it's within the specifications for drinking water from the state. Now, we don't put it into the drinking water lines, but if it came to watering agriculture, let's say, let's not just say grapes, yeah, it could be used for that. And we would like to do that. We're working on doing things like that. The amount of piping it takes to do that is somewhat prohibitive. However, we are expanding that. So, thank you for coming in. Now,
Ask one more question to Casper, had a question. With respect to this, how I viewed the report. Earlier this year, that by looking at the report that Mr. Lippman wrote, in the form of a memo to Mr. Lundy on June 4th this year, that justified the tip. Well, I consider that to be a preliminary report.
Okay,
In no way is an engineering report, in no way the white paper. There's no justification inside that report. It's not detailed. It would be totally unacceptable.
John, do we have any more speakers?
Not on this item.
Okay, Mary.
I would ask that staff get with Mr. Jensen on this device. I'd like to know more about this device.
It's a black, it's a hard.
I don't know that it doesn't exist.
I'd like that direction from the board, not from the director.
Well, it seems to me that I just heard a director direct you guys to do something, and you guys said okay. So now you're hearing it from another director who's asked you to do it. I guess my word doesn't work.
Mary.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money, and you want to spend that money on that? It's more than a tank.
I don't know. I want to know more about this. I want to learn more about it. And if one director can't ask for more information about it, yet another director can direct the staff to do something, and yet I don't have that same power, we got a problem here.
Mary, I can. Okay, John.
When you're sucking up staff resources.
Would you please take a quick look at what it'll cost to look at it?
I don't even know what we're looking at.
Okay.
I mean, he's
What
giving
he's
us a box.
talking about is a
We'll see if we
radio
can
network.
We'll see if we can find something that's out there on the market.
Okay, I doubt that it exists.
I doubt too.
That's fine.
The power company
I appreciate
It's not,
that.
yeah, we'll see what we can look up.
Well, Southern California Edison is using a system right now like that.
Yeah, I also.
And they're very successful at doing it, and they're being able, with customers' permission, turning down air conditioning at certain high peak times. I'm quite aware of that program. So I don't understand why this doesn't exist, and why it's going to be impossible to find this information out.
It's not impossible to do. It's not impossible to find the information. I will point out that SCE has a very readily available power source at every point that they're trying to contact.
And a lot of
We don't.
customers. And a lot of customers.
Okay, onward.
We'll see what we can find.
Now, at this point, Barry, the board gets to talk amongst itself and with staff, and we, excuse me, got all choked up over this, and we get to ask the public any specific questions we have. So, would you like to be first? We can. But the point is, this is a discussion between ourselves. So, anybody, Joe?
We have spent so many hours on this. We have made every effort to answer every question. Some people say their questions haven't been answered. I think the proper way to say that is it hasn't been answered to their satisfaction. And Mr. Tipkin, your very, very popular Westlake Revelations advertises only the facts. So when you say this district hasn't proved the need for this tank, that is not a fact, sir. That is your opinion. So I just ask you to reflect on when you're producing facts and when you're producing opinions as if they were facts. I don't know what questions have not been answered. I mean, we've heard this for a year and a half now, since July of 2011. We've spent over $180,000 in extra money to get outside people to answer questions. I just don't get it.
Actually, I have a question for staff. Dave, this is a very minor thing. When it comes to the Valley Fever and all that we discovered, when we talked to ACOM and the others, did we mention that we would like to have the dust laid when construction is being done?
Well, absolutely. Those are mitigation measures that are in the mitigated failure declaration.
So that is part of the package.
And also there's regulations from the city of Westlake Village and from the AQMD that you have to manage the dust from the construction sites. Yes.
Yeah. It's a small thing, but...
Yeah, I was speaking to a member of the public from Westlake Village earlier today, and he told me that he was concerned about dust and about visual impacts of this tank, and among other things, and mentioned that there was something going on up at the reservoir several weeks ago, to my understanding.
In fact, there's currently work going on up to the filtration plant, and that's the second cell tower that's being constructed at that facility.
He mentioned he had seen dust, so I would...
You know, there was some confusion about some work that was going on, and one of the contractors, who was not working for us, was creating some dust, and that, but we managed that.
You got it stopped?
We got it stopped.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a recommendation. And in my opinion, this district's been visionary in a lot of different areas. I've been on the board, this is my 25th year on the board, and I have never seen a project where we've had more outreach to the public. We built sewage treatment plant expansions and a composting plant, you know, which certainly you'd think that that would be an upsetting thing in parts of the community, but we've never had this much outreach. I think it's, you know, it's laudable what has happened, and I would move the recommendation.
Second it.
I would just like people to consider that the district will do everything within its power to make sure you get safe, reliable water. In the event that the district starts serving unsafe water, I would ask you to consider the impact on your family, i.e. water that would be subject to a boil order to keep water in the pipes for fire flows in the event of disruptions that some people say, oh, that's not going to happen, or the chances of it happening are so low. You know, earthquake, some other natural things can happen. So a boil order is certainly serving water that doesn't meet drinking water standards and would be subject to a boil order for possible use is a solution. And there are many countries in the world that can't afford to serve safe drinking water. I guess they can't afford it. I don't know why else they would choose to deliver water that would need to be boiled before it could be used safely. And I think with proper planning, the district has shown it can serve water safely and reliably. Proper planning is a part of the responsibility of staff in this, and budgeting for it is part of the responsibility of this board. So, for the good schools, for the wonderful neighborhoods that we enjoy within this district, it doesn't seem reasonable that I would want to subject my family to water that might be, in certain cases, not suitable for drinking as it comes out of the tap. And I don't operate a restaurant, nor do I operate a hotel, nor do I operate a catering company. But I would ask you to think of the ramifications on local employers, local residents, before anyone starts advocating that that's a solution. We have a motion in a second. Discussion, yeah.
As a director, not as a politician, and having a financial background, I look what's going on in this community. And this community's been hit hard like the entire nation. And yes, the water tank does relate to money that's being used. It could be used in other areas that we can help the situation better in our economy here. I go back to question asked, question answered. We have not had this problem yet. And we do have an alternative such as the boil water order. We've gone through it, through the earthquakes. But I'll take it a step further. As I've said before, let's start thinking strongly, not just little thoughts, about water conservation. We've got 20 by 2020 coming up. Let's work on conservation. I just saw something brought to this table tonight for the first time by Martin Jansen. I don't know if it's viable. Sounds to me like what Southern California Edison's doing. It may work, but something we need to take in consideration, we need to look at before we start spending gobs of money that can be used to save this economy for this community and the disruption of many people around here, and I'm looking at that disruption as well. But I will tell you this, my first obligation is the safety and the proper delivery of water to the Las Virgenes area, and I take that seriously. And if for one moment I believe that that tank's necessary, I will turn around and go a different direction. I don't see it now, but I truly believe in reliable water with proper delivery, and I will say conservation.
Okay, I have some comments. First of all, it's been observed, I suppose, that I'm a bit of a nut on fire safety. Where I live has burned through 3 times in the 42 years I've lived here. First one took out the house. That definitely got my attention. I don't want to see other people go through that. Now, I've also seen the video clips from the Oakland fire, which was a well-developed residential area, and it was awe-inspiring. Anybody who sees that becomes a believer. Having said that, I don't believe that the fire department's requirements are actually realistic. I think they're underestimating the necessary firepower if a really large fire comes in. We just saw what happened with Sandy, or Sandra, or whatever it is, up in Brighton Beach, I think it's called.
Crazy Point.
But where 80 homes, which were surrounded by water, burned out because they couldn't get to the hydrants, because the hydrants were covered with water, of all things. Now, there's one more point that I have to make. The economy is down right now. So is construction. This is the time when we can make the tank or get it built for the least possible money. This is a window of opportunity for us. Aside from the fact that it would tend to put money into the community, it's money that we have already saved up during the fat years, so to speak. It's almost biblical, but it's not quite. So I'm going to vote for this. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so be it. Thank you very much. Okay, we go on to C, the Rancho de Las Virgenes design for the digester. And it's about time.
Well, this is another project we've had before you for a while, the digester capacity of Rancho. And we can't take digesters offline to maintain them, and so we're seriously out of compliance. And could also jeopardize our compliance and our regulatory requirements to meet biological digestion. So this has been before the JCA board. They did authorize plans and specs. And so as the administering agent, we have the authority under the JPA agreement to provide, to move forward with a call for bids. And so we have this before you tonight. If we call for bids and the prices come back more than the JPA approved budget, we'll have to go back to the JPA for consideration and potentially an additional authorization for money. So we're just asking you tonight to call for the recommendation.
Just going to comment, we've had several hearings on this already. So you're going to move it, Charles?
Yes.
I'll second.
This one scares.
Yes.
This one.
I was appalled to discover that we were capable of maintaining the gestures.
We need to be able to maintain our stuff properly.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, on to D, the rehab of the 18-inch recycled water pipeline.
I'll move the plans and specs, call for bids.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry, who seconded that? Thank you.
Okay, Finance and Administration proposed change of dental insurance providers. Provider, rather.
We had Julie Sherry's. Sherry Paniagua is going to introduce it, and then Sherry Scarda, I guess you're here to answer questions. And I know Director Steinhardt was involved in this as well.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I apologize. I told the chairman at the beginning of the meeting I had to leave by 7. Some people have gone to a great deal of effort to do something for me tonight, and I intend to be there. So my apologies. See you next time.
Thank you for sticking it up this long.
Okay.
Go ahead.
As mentioned in the board packet, and with regard to...
Wait, I can't hear you.
You go closer. There we go. Included in your board packet is our recommendation. It's time to look at dental plans again for us, as our current contract with MetLife ends on December 31st. So back in August, we engaged our broker, Palms & Associates, to take our plan to market, if you will, and get price quotes for us. MetLife originally came in with a 17% increase. Through further negotiation, their final quote did provide for an 8.53% increase over what we are currently paying. I've asked Sherry Scarda from Palms & Associates to cover, we have provided in your board packet the complete quote and our materials that were involved in getting those quotes and comparing to what we currently provide. As a reminder, within our MOUs,
contracts with our union group and association. While the district can change the provider, we are required to provide the same level of benefits that we have agreed upon. So every time we look at taking the plan to market, we're looking at maintaining the level of benefit, but always looking for a better price. So that'll turn over to Sherry.
Good evening, gentlemen. The first few pages of the proposal are talking, they're pretty standard as far as how we go to market and COBRA requirements and things like that. So, and then talking about our privacy statement, how we handle the information that's provided to us as far as HIPAA, and then of course our commission disclosure. That's through page 3. It's pretty standard stuff that you've seen each year that I'm here. Page 4 is talking about your covered employees, where how many singles are covered, two-party and families. So it's a breakdown of how your plan works. If you will look at page 5, as Sherry already spoke about, we originally came in with a 17% increase, but we did take the quotes that we had in the marketplace and went back to MetLife and was able to negotiate down to an 8.53. But we feel that a consideration to move to United Concordia, which are the last two columns to the right, where we're actually coming in with a 15%, almost 15.5%, well, more than a 15.5% decrease over what you're currently paying, without any plan changes, and in fact, an enhancement to the plan for the out-of-network benefits. So it's our recommendation. And what we've done throughout this is you can see all the other plans that we looked at, including the aqua plans.
I don't have any questions. I'm very pleased with the way the numbers have come in. I want to thank you. Barry?
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
You're the insurance guy.
And I sat with the Sherrys and one more individual.
Our marketing director is here today, also Coco Bennett in the back, who is the master of all this.
And I would say Sherry Scarlett has done nothing less than I would do in a proposal. I think she's done a great job. She's gone to the marketplace. She has beat up MetLife in hopes that we would have continuity for another couple of years. She looked at the aqua plan diligently, trying to see there because she knows our direction. We want to support aqua. But the numbers are the numbers are. And United Concordia is a good company. And again, she's done good work. Our other Sherry has done a great job kicking her rear end to make it happen. And together they've done a good job. And I fully recommend the proposal with United Concordia to go forward.
And the other thing that we also did was that we wanted to look at what is called a displacement report, so that as few employees as possible would have to move to a different dentist, and then we were forced into an out-of-network situation. And we actually had very good numbers, so that the dentists that are in network are the same as what the current ones are with MetLife. Okay. The only thing to consider here that you might want to look at is we were able to, the number, the negative 15% is with a 1-year rate guarantee. We can go to a 2-year rate guarantee with an 11% decrease over your current rates. So that's holding you in place for 2 years. So that would be the only thing you might want to consider if you agree with the move.
And that's actually in our...
I'm thinking, oh, sure.
I'm sorry, we actually listed that in the board recommendation to move for a 2-year contract.
Yes.
So I would move that we go with United Concordia with a 2-year rate guarantee.
Second.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how that's handled for get blamed for everything.
Yeah, well, we got to give you some help.
This is second reading and adoption of the ordinance. Please start by giving a unanimous waiver of reading in full.
I would make a motion to waive the full reading of the proposed ordinance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Nobody is minded opposed to that.
No, now you got to make the motion. If you want to do it, now you can do what you want to do.
Do we have other speakers?
We have we have 3 speakers on this item. Don't know if you want any comments. I mean, this is another item we've talked about for a year, and just a couple of points to clarify, and I think it's already been brought up tonight. I did put together a table related to the rates, and I know Mr. Tickton and I have had some email correspondence on this subject, and I asked the question, where did you come up with the 40%? And his response to me at that time was, it was looking at the 5 years in the financial study and then compounding. We are not asking you to approve 5 years of rate adjustments or modifications. We're looking at 3 years. This is a table I briefly put together for the board, and essentially shows you, the quick item is we're comparing the current tier rates and the fixed meter charge with the 2005 proposed rates. So you can see for a customer with the average 55 units of use, 200 units of use, and 400 use, the bottom line bill is about 19% to 19.5%. So you can round it to 20 if you'd like. So that's what's before you tonight. In addition, we're proposing a restructuring of the sanitation rates so that low water user customers would see an actual reduction on their sewer bill. And then the recycled water rates would be adjusted annually from this point forward based upon a consumer price index.
I would just note for the record that for any members of the public that remember receiving their Proposition 218 notice, i.e. the rate change notification the district is required to send. I made sure there were plenty of copies on the table there by the dais. And I would also point members of the public to a rate comparison of agencies that surround this district, and with today's rates and with the proposed rates that would take effect in 2013, we are the lowest water cost provider, in some cases by far, in every case. So I'm done.
I was just going to add that I think it's important, and we've heard a lot about trying to cover the cost. The Metropolitan costs are not going to go away in the next 2 years. Metropolitan is increasing their water rate to us about 6% a year. And that adds about $1.2 million a year to our budget. Our annual water budget's about $30 million. $10 million of that is local cost, $20 million of that is just to purchase water. And so not passing along the pass-throughs and the rate increases, if you wait 3 years and use reserve monies, you're going to be passing along 20% increases, not 5% increases. So I think that's a point that the board needs to be cognizant of. Certainly your choice of what you'd like to do. But we've gone through this for a year. We've had many public meetings on this. We've had 4 public outreach events. We've had a public hearing, and we've had multiple board meetings where the public is always invited to those. And so in addition, we've had newsletters to every customer, and we've had information in the acorn. So it's your choice what you'd like to do tonight. You've heard most of this already. And so we have 3 members of the public. Here, Dr. Platzer. Sorry, she's still here tonight. Talking about empathy earlier.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us speak, and I agree with the previous speakers. My name is Dr. Merrill Platzer. I live at 28404 Foothill Drive in Agora. I'm a 31-year resident of the community, and I do enjoy the community and the schools. My background is also a neurologist, and I got my master's at UCLA in geography with plant, animal, and political geography, so I am a conservationist as well. I am opposed to the scheduled water rate increase at this time. We, as a community, need to conserve water if water shortage is an issue. If there's a need for an increase in water rates, then we should look at why there's a deficit in funds and reevaluate it. Many of our local citizens are hurting financially, home foreclosures, and unemployment is at an all-time high. Increased rates will result in more hardship to a struggling family. Water is a basic necessity, and I do appreciate clean water, but we could do it not the expense of the community. We should not pay dearly for this commodity. I encourage the district to reconsider and use the funds that are available and streamline instead of asking the community to fork out more funds. This is not the time. Thank you very much.
I just have one question for you. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Were you aware that, are you aware that our Tier 1 rate for water that we charge, that the district charges all of its customers, me, you, every customer, the rate that the district charges in Tier 1, i.e. the first 16 units in a 2-month period, is less than the cost of the water the district buys?
Yes, I'm aware of it, but I can tell you that I was gone for 2 weeks and I had a leak, small leak, and my water bill tripled. So I am aware and I conserve. I don't wash clothes more than once a week. I turn off all the water. I have a drip system. I have drought-resistant plants. I don't have any grass in the majority of my property. And still, I paid triple in the last time period.
No, but if you stay under 16 units, you will also see a decrease in your sewer.
But I had a leakage. I had a leakage, and I was gone. And I was advised by you guys that my water rate increased, and I was out. It was outrageous. So there are circumstances where you're going to have older persons in the hospital with a leakage or some other issue.
Are you aware that there is a leak adjustment policy within this district?
Yes, it's only $125 in 10-year period. I looked into that. So therefore, that doesn't cover what...
It's a one adjustment per every 10 years.
Right, of $125.
In your case, that's the amount of it.
Right, but my bill was triple that.
And I've got a quick question. How did you discover the leak?
You guys thankfully told me that, but it was, it's 2 weeks into it.
Okay.
And it cost me $600 in plumbing fees as well,
Yeah,
so.
I'm glad that that policy works at least.
Thank you. But meanwhile, my bill was triple.
Question for her?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Very much. Another one?
Yes, Ann Sturman. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong list. Kyla Say, she gone?
Kayla.
Well, she had 2 items, 8B and 10A, so. And Mr. Tickton.
I did offer to provide it together.
You warned me.
So first, since I was kind of called out again here by name a few minutes ago, or some of the comments were made to me, I wanted to clarify some things. I actually have never said that the district was hiding something. I said it appears that the district is hiding something, but it doesn't communicate about stuff. There's a huge difference between the two, because one, it questions your integrity, and I have not done that.
If you're on the receiving end, are you sure about that? That there's a huge difference, I mean.
I would have, you know what, that's a really good piece of feedback, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, feel free. I'm fine with that. And the board keeps referring to this what was really a highly biased customer survey and how great it is. I answered every question on that survey, to the letter of every question that was on that survey. And if you go back and look at my answers,
you will definitely think that I am 100% pleased with the district. Is there anybody in this room that thinks that I'm 100% pleased with the district? Because that survey was so biased in the way it was written, it was ridiculous. And so I would request you stop referring to the survey as proof that it is, that people are very, very happy with stuff. We saw a vote, they're not happy. Fourth, Mr. Bowman talked about fact and revelations and whatnot. It is a fact that the community does not understand the need for the tank and some of these other things that we've talked about. It's not the community's fault that they don't understand. It's the district's fault. And so, as he was attacking me on that, that's what I have to say about that. And the last on this, Mr. Bowman did offer to answer my questions after the board voted to move forward with the tank. My first question back to him was, what's the point after you've already moved forward to, you've already voted on it? And by the way, he didn't answer my question, just like any other questions. So those are the things that Mr. Bowman had said, or other people had said a moment ago. As far as this rate increase, I would request that you put the rate increase on hold. I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying simply pause. It's not been shown that the tank is necessary. It's not really clear on the rates overall, and we don't know if the large rate increases coming are as necessary. It's actually clearer that it is on the tank, except for the portion of whether the tank is necessary to begin with. You do have reserves. You do have stabilization reserves, rate stabilization reserves. During a time like this, I would think that this is the time to use it because people are hurting for it. And rather than continue to tell us that no one cared, no one looked at the different notices that were out there and the different meetings that are out there, I again ask you to look at the methods of communication, which failed. You need to assume that it's your approach, not us, that are at fault here. The board's behavior of going after things, from Mr. Bowman calls me out, or calls Mr. Jansen out, or calls other members of the public out, people have told us they don't bother going to board meetings because they don't want to be called out, they don't want to be embarrassed, and they don't want to be attacked the way that they are. I don't really care personally, but that's what people have said. The meetings are not, to go over the rates have not been transparent. Scheduling a rate meeting in Westlake Village, at least, during back to school night, is not a great time to do it. That's when there were people that wanted to go that couldn't go because their kids came first. And other things that you've done to communicate, they're not great communication tools because they weren't done thoroughly. So for example, take the calculator. You have this rate calculator on the homepage of the website, or the rate page of the website. I spent a good amount of time looking at it. It doesn't address more than 1 month at a time. It does not address more than the first year of increases. It does not address the variability of your bill from one part of the season to another. It doesn't include the projected rate increases from LVMWD, which I understand are projected at this stage, but they are pretty well defined as to what you guys think that they are. You spent a lot of money on this calculator for the website. As someone in the computer industry, I originally defended the cost of what you guys were spending on that calculator, and then I saw what it does, which is almost nothing, and then as a joke, and you really got ripped off on what you spent for that calculator. You gotta stop defending how well you guys are doing and how great the survey is, and just listen to us and inquire as to what these issues are, rather than just bowling forward. We talked about a little bit earlier that we talked about rate for sanitation and how it's going to come down for something. Well, that's great. Does everybody know that the rates are the 3rd highest out of 13 of the surrounding water districts that are out there? And I understand there's different infrastructures and there's different ways of calculating it. We have different populations here and different needs. I get it. But we're already almost at the very top. We're more than double the lowest part of it. And then there's this talk through of the pass-through rates from MWD. Now, what I've been told, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, because that would be new information, is that the projected rate increases from MWD are 5% a year for like the next 5 years. I just heard Mr. Money say 6, but what I heard was 5 by 5 in the past. That's what I've been told in the past. If that is truly a pass-through, that will not result in a 5% increase in our end water rate, because it would be 5% on the wholesale cost of water, and there's all the services that the district charges for its portion of what it has. So 5% might equate to, say, a 4% increase. I'm just making these numbers up, don't take them literally here. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. That's not, if it's 5% from MWD, 5% is not a pass-through. 4% would be the pass-through. So before you proceed with this rate increase, I just say again, need to show us why you need to build the tank, why, and if not even without the tank, why we can't use our existing reserves, why we can't look at other measures first. And since that just hasn't come close to doing it, people don't understand how much they're going to really be paying here over a multi-year period. I ask you to put the rate increases on hold until they do. That's it. Did your question answer before about the 40 or no?
Yes, thank you.
And that was the way that those numbers came to me.
Okay, I'd like to know more about the rate calculator. What's wrong with the rate calculator?
It's useless.
How much did we pay for it?
Nothing.
It's worth what we paid for it, in your opinion.
I was told that it was like many tens of thousands of dollars.
No.
I was just telling you.
I don't know if
That
you're making
was,
this up,
I remember.
but you need to contact somebody that knows something.
Let me just clarify what we did there. We did pay for, and I forgot the exact amount now. We did pay for the calculator itself. What we did not pay anything for was the comparison of the different agencies. I mean, there's a separate video there that shows a comparison of our rates with the other agencies. That was something we did in-house.
So we paid for the calculator.
But we did, I forgot what the amount is now.
It's not tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, but I just want to understand, we paid for that.
Yes.
Why is it defective?
Well, if nothing else, even if it had all been done by staff, it's obviously going to cost something in the long run. This doesn't occur for nothing.
And a calculator is a great way to show the community this is what your impact on your specific bill would be, but it was done very poorly.
Okay, well, let's see if I could put in my water use for my house, and it would show me what the difference would be. I think that would be pretty valuable.
It doesn't show that. It shows you the difference for one single bill only for next year. It does not show the 3 years of increases. It does not show MWD, and it does not show over the entire season. It shows 1 month for whichever 1 month you put in.
That is very correct. It does show 1 month, because when the board adopted its last set of rate increases, the board made a commitment, staff made a commitment. If our projections on costs are in error and costs come in lower, we will not implement sewer rate increases that were approved by the board. In 2 out of the 5 years, sewer rate increases, though previously approved, were not implemented. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is it correct? If I can ask you, is it
And
correct?
so that I would assume that it is my belief that the board will approach this 218 notice on the table right at your left in the same manner.
Is the 218 notice covering, and what you'd be voting on tonight, covering multiple years?
3 years.
Yes.
I understand that. I'm just confirming that that's the case.
3 years.
And if something changes from the current projections, then it may change, up or down.
Not up.
No.
Only down.
Only down.
But the default path is that the rate increases as voted on tonight for 3 years would go through.
Are not to exceed.
Are not to exceed, but as a default path, it would continue.
It is required that we notice every customer by law in advance of a projected rate increase. And it is an expensive process. We could choose to do it 1 year at a time and incur probably at least an extra $100,000. Mail it out several extra times. So for perfect clarity, I think you've asked the right questions. That was one question you didn't ask. So I gave you an answer to something you didn't ask.
There is one little quibble. We don't know how much of a pass-through there will be from the Metropolitan Water District the 3rd year. So essentially, we left that as a to be determined. So in a sense, we don't know how much more that's going to add. Is that clear?
No.
No, actually, there is a reason for that. In the interest of full disclosure, we disclosed what we know metropolitan rates will be for the next 2 years. Water districts are allowed to pass through wholesale cost increases without going through the full 218 notice public hearing process.
However, we are required to notice every customer.
We are required to notice, but not the full Prop 218 process.
But Mr. Rager just said, please correct me if I'm wrong here, that you just said that we don't know what Metropolitan is going to do, but I believe a few minutes ago, Mr. Mundy will correct me if I'm wrong, he said we are expecting or projecting or something a 6% over the next per year over the next 5 years. Is that what you said a moment ago?
I did say that, but I'm getting, quite frankly, a little tired of you twisting what we're saying here. Now,
I'm asking.
Let me explain some things, okay, what we're doing here. The Metropolitan Water District puts out a note that says they're raising their rates 5%. We understand that. But their 5% is not 5% to us, because they have other fixed charges that boost that up to about 6%. To us.
Okay.
We look at that number and then determine what does that mean to Las Virgenes customers. It's not 6% to them. It's more like 3% or 4%. And then we look at our operating costs, so the total percentage that we are looking at in the 3 years are 5% a year, with the first 2 years including what we know for Metropolitan. The third year is unknown. We don't know what that is yet.
So it's projected.
No, we don't even know that yet. That has not projected a third year.
Didn't you say a moment ago that we're expecting a 6% rate increase from
the next 2 years?
For the next 5 years is what I heard you say.
No, the next 2 years. I didn't say 5 years. For the next 2 years.
Okay, what I heard.
Okay, well, I'm telling you what.
That's fine. That's
what
fine.
it is.
That's fine.
The 218 notices actually only show the 3 years. And since we've only published the 3 years, that means that if nothing else happens, we'll definitely have to go through it again 3 years from now. And
we will need to consider whether any increases are needed, and if so, how much and how soon.
Yes.
After this 3-year period.
And when you notice to the public through this public process of here, and you say our rate increases are going to go up. I'm not going to pull the number out. Let's say it's 5% for the Las Virgenes portion of the water bill. Okay. And that's going to happen over, and I know it's much more complex than that in different years, but it's going to go up X% over, or the rates are going to go up a certain amount for year 1, it's going to go up a certain amount more in year 2, and it's going to go up a certain amount more in year 3, unless a correction is made that it's not necessary you decide otherwise. But not to exceed, that's what the plan is, unless we see some good news in some way. And the 218 goes out with that. And the Metropolitan notices, we know the Metropolitan is going to go up. And then you go to the website and you talk about your rate calculator, and it doesn't talk about the Metropolitan side of it, I don't believe. It doesn't look like it, at least. It only talks about the Las Virgenes part of it. There's all of these different moving parts, and there is no way for anybody to look at that and say, okay, what these guys are going to vote on now for the next year is going to cost my household this much more. And then in the next year, it's going to cost that much more beyond that. And maybe it is actually technically possible through, if somebody wants to go do the math on every bill across the board. But really, I mean, I just don't see people, doing that. It's just way too difficult. The calculator should have shown them, or there should be a way for them to get the information. I know the chart is there. I know the tiers are there. I can tell you that it takes a substantial amount of time to figure this out for the next 3 years of water bills. And then that is not a well-communicated thing, and that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Just a clarification. As I've said before, the first 3 years are to recover enough money for Metropolitan and our local operating costs, so we get even in year 3. It doesn't cover any cost of the tank. So these rates, because we're building a tank, or if we move forward to build a tank, the board decides that, these rates aren't going to cover that tank. However, as said earlier, you could use reserves to offset rates, but that's a limited amount of money that you're going to have over time. So at some point, you're still going to have to adjust it. And I'm sorry?
Operating reserves,
yeah.
not capital.
Well, it's just covering operating costs. in the first 3 years.
Okay, thank you, Neil. At this point, we're going to go to board discussion. And I'll ask Dave, do you have something to say?
No, I was just going to clarify that the calculator does include both.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The calculator that we have posted online.
Yes,
does include both net pass-through and our cost.
Okay. I vaguely remember that. Okay, good. Now, does somebody else have something to say?
I just had a question for Sandra. With regards to the timing of our bond refunding that we did, was that in 2009 or was that?
Yes.
That was in 2009. Just for members of the public who may not recall or have been around at that time, the district had an opportunity in a very favorable interest rate environment to refund bonds that had been issued for construction of facilities many years ago. And a portion of those were sanitation improvements, recycled water improvements, and potable water improvements. Major additions to the district facilities. And in 2009, when our advisors and bankers came back to us, they said, yeah, we can do this for sanitation. We can do this for reclaimed water. We can't do it for potable water. Your numbers are going the wrong direction, and you will not be able to reissue bonds for the potable water portion of your outstanding bond, your bond indebtedness.
We were actually underwater.
And the district had the reserves, paid off the potable water bonds, but was not in a position to refinance those at any kind of favorable rate then. Are we in a position to refinance or to finance potable water debt using typical agency bonds?
No, and you won't be in 3 years either.
It doesn't sound like we're maintaining the strength of the district financially very well. Just a personal observation.
Okay, I've got some comments. Actually, I'm sorry that the lady who talked about conservation isn't still here. I'm very much in favor of high rates in the higher, personally, I'm in favor of high rates in the higher tiers. The problem with doing that, however, is that when we get people to conserve, it means that the district loses a tremendous amount of its revenue streams. So in the interests of stability, what you really want to do is become regressive, go the other way around, where you have almost all of your income coming from the lower tiers, where everybody is guaranteed to be using the water. So that is a balance that had to be made. Now, one other thing, one of the reasons that we have as much of an increase now as we are proposing is because the Metropolitan Water District, some years ago, put off for many years increasing their rates enough, or at all, I think. And that's what I call the ripple effect. And we are now paying the price, so to speak, by having to boost our rates more than we would have if we had been bringing more money in the past. It's a little weird, but you can bend your mind around it. So I don't want that to happen in the future, and that's one of the reasons that I am definitely in favor of the proposed rate increase that we have right now. That's all I have to say on it. Anyone else?
No, just to flesh out that a little bit. That didn't raise its rates to us. I want to say from 2000 until 2007. And the district actually reduced the rates to its customers after I was elected. Reduced commodity rate or gave more rate more commodity in the lower tiers 3 separate times after my election. And we were not forced to have rates go the other direction for almost 7 years, for 6 years. So
now we get to pay for it.
I'm pleased that the district was able to do that for its customers, and I wish that would be the case for this upcoming year.
Okay, so a motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the Las Virgenes Administrative Code as it relates to potable water, recycled water, sanitation rates, and temporary water fees. Be given second reading by title only.
And adopted. Second reading and adopted by title only.
And be adopted by reading title only.
I'll second it. Okay. Good one. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
roll vote?
Roll call. Roll vote, sorry, yes.
Director Ringer?
Yes.
Director Bowman is absent. Director Kasperi?
Yes.
Director Steinhardt?
No.
Director Peterson?
Yes.
Good.
I'll read the title. It's an ordinance of the Board of Directors of Las Virgenes Municipal Water District amending Las Virgenes Code, Ordinance 1186-161, as it relates to potable water, recycled water, and sanitation rates and temporary water fees.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we go on to 10B, which is resolution of intent for continuation of potable water standby charge. John.
Well, this is a fee that's been applied to district property acreage, $10 per acre, a portion thereof, since 1995. It raises about $530,000. There's an opportunity for customers who do not receive water from the district to defer this fee, and we have a process that they can apply and defer that, or at least a portion of their property can be deferred as well. We annually notice any changes in ownership of property, so customers that purchase property in the district are made aware that this charge is on their property. And we're proposing tonight, we're asking you to approve this resolution that would give your intent to continue the standby charge, and then staff would come back after the first of the year and start to move through the process of getting your full approval. We have to get, if the board does approve this, we have to get all the information in the county prior to August so that they can put this on the tax rolls. The money is used for putting a potable replacement fund and used to help replace potable water assets.
Out of curiosity, this essentially applies to the owners and parcels, but as of what date? Beginning of the year or?
The tax year, each tax year.
Which is what?
July 1st to June 30th.
Okay. Thank you. All right. All right, I'll move it. Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So be it. Information items.
And we included the paperwork from the county related to Director Kasperi's appointment, so we thought we'd include that as part of the public record. And what we'll need is Mr. Poland is still here. I won't be here at the time, but I'd ask that Mr. Poland and Director Kasperi come into the office on the afternoon of June 7th so he can be sworn in. January 7th, and I apologize for that. January 7th, and we have a JPA meeting that night, so in order for both of you to sit at that meeting, you need to be sworn in prior. And
they can be sworn in at the beginning of the meeting, 5 minutes before the meeting starts.
It's out of the district.
Doesn't matter, just taking an oath.
All right. Well, we thought there was an issue of being out of the district.
You mean the oath is good anywhere?
Yeah, I'm fine with doing it at the JPA meeting. Len?
I actually was thinking about it, Ned Davis was in attendance if he can be the officer swearing in to extend the hand to the city of Westlake Village.
I'm not following.
Who has to swear me in?
Anyone who's authorized to administer oaths, and that's a kind of a non-intuitive list. The secretary of the district's authorized to administer oaths. Any notary public, any judge. I'm not sure that a council member is authorized to administer oaths other than in connection with a council meeting. I just haven't not had occasion to look that up. I can if you want. But.
Well, I'd like to know. Okay. Yes, please.
I just wanted to put it on your radar screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess it was a good idea.
All right. Next items?
Well, we had our Met meeting, throat's not working very good tonight. We had our Met meeting last Monday night, the night of the JPA meeting. So I was at both meetings. We normally not make it. But it was really a light agenda, however, it had one major issue on it, and that was the issue of the minute between the country of Mexico and the United States on the sharing of water, shortage sharing, storage, and even a new water component. They will be allowed to store up to they'll be able to store water that they conserve, like our conservation programs are. And some of that water, if they conserve in Mexico, they can then sell that entitlement to that amount of water they store to either the state of, well, not California, Metropolitan Water District. IID has their finger in it, but there hasn't been any agreement. And Met has to agree to short share with IID. IID said they're interested in it because they have a lot of solar projects going on down there and they need some water for that. They only use their ag water because it would be illegal use, supposedly. The other thing they have a right to do is surplus. They're able to take surplus and they would Metropolitan's pretty much protected in the shortage sharing because there is an agreement for the first 600,000 acre feet of water that's shorted for a year will go to Arizona and to Nevada, and now Mexico will take a part of that shortage sharing, and then after 600,000 acre feet of water shortage sharing, that's on the hook to be limited also. Surplus is there are guidelines for surplus when declared surplus is. Obviously, if it's an overflow of the dam spill, then that's unlimited surplus in a spill condition. But when the lake gets to a certain level, I'm not sure. I think it's 2175. When it gets to that level, it then is declared surplus, and Mexico is entitled to a small amount of that water. I think it's 40,000 acre feet of water. And the program is going to cost Met about $5 million. Met, Arizona, and Nevada are all sharing in the program with the Bureau of Reclamation and the country of Mexico to do these programs within Mexico. Lining of canals, if you know, when they had their huge earthquake, all the canals were busted up and the system was not able to deliver water. We actually took emergency storage, what we allowed to have done in the United States, of their water. And there are conditions on when they can take this water out. But it's a big deal for both countries. And it's an opener for future cooperative deals. This deal is for 5 years, I believe. Met it is. So. And the water can be taken in the next 10 years. But it was a major accomplishment, and Jesse Silva Pete Silva from Silva Consulting, he played a major role in getting this done for both. And it was important to get it done now because you had 2 elections. One hadn't been settled, the other one has been, both been settled, but the new president will come online in December. Mexico. That's all.
Okay, first of all, this is, of course, is the Colorado
Yes.
we're talking about. And the water is stored in Mead?
Yes,
Lake Mead.
yes, like, it's only for the lower basin. The upper basin isn't participating in this at all.
Sure. And the other thing is that, on the first part of what you're talking about, if Mexico doesn't use all of the water that actually gets down to them, and they store that, then they can say, okay, we don't need to take the equivalent amount of water out of Mead, and therefore we can sell that. Is that what's happening?
Well, actually, that has to work into the conservation side of the program. And this is either fallowing land, they have to prove that the fallow land to create that water. They can't just sell their allotment of water, they have to do conservation. It's called intentionally created surplus. But it's a conservation program. And the good thing about this is this water does not sit on the top of Lake Mead, it sits on the bottom. And that's very important because when you come to spills, normally if it's spilling, you lose the water. But this water, just like the water for the Brock Reservoir and for the desalter in Yuma, these waters sit on the bottom. So this is water that's guaranteed. And these were done because this was, a big deal for the 3 states to have gotten together and done these conservation programs.
When you say bottom water, is this a legal fiction, or are you literally talking about?
No, I mean, it can't spill. It's not subject to spill. Like, normally, you're intentionally creating surplus, the water that we store in Lake Mead, that water, it sits on the top. So it will fall out. All our IID conservation, all that water will fall out. But when you spill, you're also going to be in surplus. So, there's no need for it. But this water actually will sit on the bottom. This water will sit in the lake, whether the lake's filling or not. And then we take it when we want it. And the nice thing about this is it also brings the level of the lake up because Mexico is, leaving water in the system, which is very important.
Okay. Any other organization reports? No? All right, director's reports and other meetings. Okay. No?
Yes. I attended a Restoration Commission meeting in October. It's a bi-monthly meeting. And it was interesting to see Heal the Bay push the executive committee of the Bay Commission to bring forth a resolution regarding 3 lobster fishermen that would like to be able to maybe get a couple new areas to fish lobster in because the marine life protected areas took a bunch of it away from them. And Heal the Bay was ready to get right in there and have the Bay Commission pass a resolution opposing any changes when this whole process is about a 3-year process to take scientific testimony and all of the studies being done. And Heal the Bay was ready to get those guys, just take that off the table right now, years early. And I asked that the Technical Advisory Committee to the Bay Restoration Commission review it and opine on the merits to the governing board at the next meeting to be held in December. Because the Technical Advisory Committee is an important component of the true analysis and subjective analysis of any proposals brought to the commission. So I don't think it reported on some kelp restoration money that has come from a $1.2 million grant that's actually coming from the Montrose Chemical Settlement for the DDT pollution that was created since World War II in the Santa Monica Bay to do some kelp restoration. There's I know that LA County Sanitation District is working mightily kind of with various agencies because a marine life protected area was established in Palos Verdes, and that's very close to where their outfall is for their sanitation, their wastewater treatment plant.
Is that Hyperion?
Hyperion, City of LA. It's the other.
Joint. It's the joint plan with Carson.
And Mary, you might be able to shed a little more light on it, but it appears they're quite concerned with some of the basin objectives that are being promulgated, that they could be put at risk of hundreds of millions of dollars of additional expense that they weren't planning for. Is that? I also attended the Association of Water Agencies of Ventura County. Outstanding presentations by Cayugas Municipal Water District, by United Water Conservation District, and by Casitas Municipal Water District. And a lot of investigation into various environmental remediation efforts that they're undertaking or are proposing to undertake. I think one of the most interesting two things. They reiterated that 2 rainbow trout can breed and produce maybe 1 in 10 offspring will actually wind up going to the sea, become anadromous, and become a steelhead, and then return to fresh water to breed. And it's not a distinct genetic species. It's just it's an anadromous form of a rainbow trout. The other interesting statistic was Ventura County aquifers have an estimated capacity of 28 million acre-feet per year. Huge aquifer capacity. That's more than what goes underneath San Francisco Bridge from the Delta. So, just, it's a staggering thought that, by the way, they're overdrafting those aquifers, despite the United Water Conservation District's infiltration basins that can infiltrate up to 15 feet of water per day within these basins. They're still, yeah.
I mean, usually it's 2 or 3.
Yeah, in an acre of ground, they can put 15 acre-feet back into the aquifer in 24 hours.
Must be cobblestones 100 feet down.
Must be, but they're still overdrafting their aquifers to the tune of better than 25,000 acre-feet per year.
Or it's being pulled away by underground flow into the ocean.
That too. They've got saltwater intrusion bad in that South Oxnard area, such that they've had to turn wells off, such that they've got to blend state water to even meet state water quality standards. And their plant, Oxnard has a groundwater treatment plant, advanced filtration, that only requires 130 psi for their membrane filtration, which I was stunned. They now have membranes that will do it at that low pressure, which really helps the cost of energy.
Well, it's brackish water, which helps.
Yeah, it's not seawater.
Not seawater.
Right.
But they have so much pumping out there in that Oxnard plain, they call it the pumping trough area. And so it's so negative that any seawater that's above elevation that can find a fissure, it goes right into that groundwater basin. And once the groundwater basin is polluted with seawater, you're done.
At least in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember some of the things different, and it was quite a tour that we could take.
They did a good job.
Items that we never normally know about and see. Some locations.
Okay. Anybody else? No. Okay, on to to the general manager's reports.
Just a couple of quick items. I'm doing double duty tonight as secretary.
You're not as good looking.
No, I know that. And I'm not as efficient either, believe me. Just a reminder on the calendar, 11:15 AWA is in Oxnard, and Directors Peterson and Steinhardt. And I thought there was one other attending, but I'm not sure. District offices will be closed the 22nd and 23rd for the Thanksgiving holiday. Please remember you've got a special board meeting closed session for November 28th to interview candidates for general manager position. We have booked a room at the Hilton Garden Inn in Calabasas. We've done that for several reasons. It was about $300, but it's a hotel. It's available to some of the candidates that have to travel so they could stay there, and it's close to the Commons, so it's close to what suits places for food and that kind of thing. So October 28th, excuse me, November 28th, and a special meeting, 9 a.m. We've got the room booked for the whole day, but the meeting starts at 9.
John, meeting starts at 8:30.
Well, the interviews start at 9, excuse me, yes, correct. There's a half-hour prep, so if we can get you there by 8:30, it'll be helpful.
Are you going to send a notice out?
We'll get the information to you. Yeah.
I don't take ones off until it's out.
We'll get it out. Just out there a little bit, CASA has sent their mid-year conference notice. It's in Indian Wells this year, and that's January 16 through 18. So we don't have availability to register yet, but certainly getting your request to Kendi earlier would be helpful. Appreciate that.
I'm sorry, you said we don't have availability to register?
We don't have availability to register. They just sent out a notice that's save the date.
It says it's open.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
okay, well, I missed that today. Okay.
Did you not keep it? No.
Oh, it says program or registration. Okay, I'll check to see if it's...
Right under here, registration is now open.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So if you're interested, let us know. We'll get that lined up. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, director's comments? Barry.
Well, before he leaves, I want to just thank Councilman Ned Davis for coming and sitting through a whole meeting. And I want to know if this wasn't a better meeting than your council could ever put on.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. And more,
I'm inviting you all tomorrow. We have one tomorrow in our fair city.
Oh gosh, could we?
If you guys just haven't had enough tomorrow.
Thanks a bunch, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
and then also, Mr. Poland, Lynn, yes, sir. I just want to congratulate you, and I look forward to working with you in the next number of years.
Great.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to it too.
And if you decide that after tonight's meeting, you might not want to do this, let us know.
On the contrary.
It actually reminds me a little bit of the Chinese curse, may you live in
Interesting times, absolutely.
All right. Anybody else? Yeah, I have one comment. I just finished what's called the CERT training. It's the Civilian Emergency Response Team. Now, actually, it's something people should go through. It's rather sobering, if anything else. I realize that if there's an emergency, we're probably going to need all of our personnel to take care of things for the district. On the other hand, it might not be a bad idea if the district would encourage people, even if it's just the families of our employees, to join in on that, or even in our current flow, put in a note that CERT training is available, and it's an awfully good idea. It's not supposed to replace the policemen and the firemen. It's for disasters where they're overwhelmed, and they become first responders in the worst case, and helpers in what are hopefully better cases. So I recommend it.
You are aware of the program that's in Agora Hills, and I think the other cities.
I know that Agora Hills does it. Actually, it's sponsored basically by FEMA, and it's a standard course of 7 units.
The fire
Takes
department
4
does.
days.
Marcia Grycan.
Among others, yeah. Right. I took it down at Malibu, and you could actually mix and match the units. My wife missed the first 2 units. She'll be taking them out in Agora sometime in January, I think. So, all right, that's all I have on that. Anyone else? Future agenda items?
I've got 2 items listed. Director Steinhardt's request to look at whatever that device is, see if we can find any information related to controlling irrigation. And Director Kasperi, we wanted to look at the historical water use on the bill question that came up earlier.
Just to have staff.
Just to get you back some
just
information.
let us know what changes were made and make sure that we didn't delete something valuable that the customers might.
Yeah, we'll get that information together. That's what we have.
So, okay. In that case, we're going to go to closed session. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for coming.